Pondering. Ponder. Verb. 1. To weigh in the mind. Appraise. 2. To think about. Reflect on. The mind is either your best friend or your worst enemy. Sometimes it is both of these. A mature civilization has learned how to use the art of pondering in every moment of life. This is the lost art for a man. Man is so busy texting on the freeway of life. He is running on a treadmill and going nowhere. He doesn't even have the common sense to slow down and watch where he is going. This is man's downfall. He never stops and reflects upon life and the universe. When a civilization learns the art of pondering, this is a great step forward. Any problem can be solved by the art of pondering. How do you think Einstein discovered such great theories? He didn't just come to him by chance. When one enters into silence, the universe begins to speak to you, not through words, but through intuition. Most mankind has no clue about how powerful intuition is. We are so locked up in our 9-to-5 existence that we're not interested in the slightest. Even amid the chaos of this world, we still go on our merry way. We are so oblivious that there's a dagger held by a thin thread over our heads. Most people would say, "What an unusual decoration." I've written over 60 books, and each book has a specific message which could help you if you want. You must decide to ponder things over. You can take a horse to water, where you can't make him drink, but you can put salt in his food. Hopefully, this is salt in your food.
Tao Te Ching. I've been fascinated by the timelessness of the Tao Te Ching. It describes the nature of man with all his goodness and his foibles. It seems like we haven't progressed much in the area of being in harmony. We still fight and bicker with one another. The United States is divided. The truth is considered lies. Lies are considered truth. If you say lies long enough, they become true to others. We even have media that declares lies as true. The current administration even calls all media fake news if they don't print his point of view. For 4 years, this has been going on. Where did this ultimately lead us? A massive riot at the Capitol building, instigated by the president. This is from Reuters News. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election, Trump, the Republican, tweeted on December 20th. Big protests in D.C. on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild. They turned out in the thousands and heard the president urge them to march on the Capitol building to express their anger at the voting process and to pressure their elected officials to reject the results. We're going down to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, Trump told the crowd, speaking with the White House as a backdrop. Appearing at what could be his last rally as a sitting president, Trump exhorted his supporters to fight. We will never give up. We will never concede, Trump said, delighting the crowd by calling Democratic victories the product of what he called explosions of bullshit. Bullshit, 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 people chanted in reply. Let's review the Tao and see what it says about harmony and the state of affairs today. Tao Te Ching. I've been fascinated by the timelessness of the Tao Te Ching. It describes the nature of man with all his goodness and his foibles. It seems like we haven't progressed much in the area of being in harmony. We still fight and bicker with one another. The United States is divided. The truth is considered lies. Lies are considered truth. If you say lies long enough, they become true to others. We even have media that declares lies as true. The current administration even calls all media fake news if they don't print his point of view. For 4 years, this has been going on. Where did this ultimately lead us? A massive riot at the Capitol building, instigated by the president. This is from Reuters News. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election, Trump, the Republican, tweeted on December 20th. Big protests in D.C. on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild. They turned out in the thousands and heard the president urge them to march on the Capitol building to express their anger at the voting process and to pressure their elected officials to reject the results. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, Trump told the crowd, speaking with the White House as a backdrop. Appearing at what could be his last rally as a sitting president, Trump exhorted his supporters to fight. We will never give up. We will never concede, Trump said, delighting the crowd by calling Democratic victories the product of what he called explosions of bullshit. Bullshit, 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 people chanted in reply. Let's review the Tao and see what it says about harmony and the state of affairs today.
Definition of mystical is as follows: of relating to or stemming from mysticism or immediate understanding of spiritual matters, especially when experienced as a direct communion with God. Awe-inspiring or mysterious, of mystics or mysticism, relating to or based on intuition, contemplation, of a spiritual nature, inspiring a sense of spiritual mystery, awe, fascination. The definition of adventures is as follows: verb, engage in a hazardous and exciting activity, especially the exploration of unknown territory, the adventure into the forest. Now, unusual and exciting, typical hazardous experience or activity, or recent adventures in Italy. I have been extremely blessed in my life. We all can live a life full of mystical adventures. Our human body is hardwired for that experience, yet we live our lives oblivious to this. Many people have a life and death experience when they tap to the beyond. Each one of us will ultimately have this experience if it will be done. Yet while
Intro. My dear friend Lori Seacrest once said, if you want to master anything, teach it or write about it. I took her advice to heart. I've been doing this for around 20 years now. For most of my life, I've been researching the great mysteries of life. I love to learn. That is my passion. I love to think outside of the box. During the last 10 years, I've been studying the lines of this book. You are your own master chemist. I've been interested in science and heightened awareness since the 70s. During the 80s, I went to Robert Monroe's Gateway program for a week. He was a pioneer in hemisync. This technology is still being used today. This has been an evolution in learning. When I first started to learn how to meditate, there wasn't much science behind the mind, body, and soul connection. The phrase, being in the zone, was a new concept that just came out. My dear friend Tim Galloway wrote the book The Inner Game of Tennis in the early 70s. He's been at it ever since. Many professional coaches and athletes give tribute to their success for the wisdom gained from Tim. When this book came out, I was only around 20 years old. This book was one of the doorways I took on my lifetime pursuit of gathering inner wisdom. My meditation practice was learned when I was in India. Here's an excerpt from his webpage. What is the inner game? In every human endeavor, there are two areas of engagement, the outer and the inner. The outer game is played on an external arena to overcome external obstacles to reach an external goal. The inner game takes place within the mind of the player and is played against such obstacles as fear, self-doubt, lapse in focus, and limiting concepts or assumptions. The inner game is a proven method to overcome the self-imposed obstacles that prevent an individual or team from accessing their full potential. Just yesterday, I wrote this in an article entitled Mind Blowing. Click on the picture to hear the audio. I hope this book will interest you as much as I. I'm always exploring and fine-tuning the guitar of life. This human body is absolutely incredible. We have the operating system, hardware, and software put in place. You are literally the universe. Every day, new discoveries are mapping how this human body is a gateway to the universe. That is our true nature. This is a story where you are your own master chemist. You control your destiny in life. In each and every moment, thousands of either positive chemicals or negative chemicals are regulated into your body. You control this mechanism by your thoughts and emotions. Let's dive into this subject. Come and join me on this journey. Intro. I hope you get something from this book. Discovering the silence within is so much needed today. They say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Maybe, just maybe, this is salt that is put into your food. We're all on the journey of life together. Hope you enjoy this book. Intro. Albert E. Newman must have been a closet mystic. His magazine was out of the world. There we have so many signposts appearing, yet one must have the eyes to see. The following is from Wikipedia. The Mad Fold-In as a feature is found on the inside back cover of virtually every Mad magazine since 1964. Written and drawn by Al Jaffe until 2020, the fold-in is one of the most well-known aspects of the magazine. The feature was conceived in response to centerfolds in popular magazines, particularly Playboy. Explaining his original inspiration, Jaffe said, "Playboy had a fold-out of a beautiful woman in each issue, and Life magazine had these large, striking fold-outs in which they showed how the Earth began, or their solar system, or something on that order. Some massive panorama. Many magazines were hopping on the bandwagon, offering similar full-color spreads to their readers. I noticed this and thought, what's a good satirical comment on the trend? Then I figured, why not reverse it? If other magazines are doing these big, full-colored fold-outs, well, cheap and old Mad should go completely the opposite way and do an ultra-modest black and white fold-in. In 2011, Jaffe reflected, the thing I got a kick out was Jeopardy showed a fold-in and the contestants all came up with a word they were looking for, which was fold-in. So I realized I created an English language word. It takes great wisdom to see satire. Satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of a contemporary politics and other topical issues. Note, this book isn't full of satire, yet behind the scenes satire exists. The mystics of old and good old Albert E. Newman would have been great friends. They had so much in common. They would have loved the Mad Fold-In. Though this world is not what it seems, and they clearly understood that notion. This book reflects common words that we take for granted and don't spend time pursuing the true meanings behind them. What mean worry could have come from a Zen master thousands of years ago? What is the sound of one hand clapping? Each word helps one to solve the puzzle of life. There is a riddle to solve. Come along on this cosmic fold-in. The journey lies inside of you. What you see with your eyes is not reality. Intro. This book is all about the ability of mankind to transform. The definition of transform is as follows: to change in composition or structure, to change the outward form or appearance of, to change in character or condition, to cause a cell to undergo genetic transformation. I call this present era the evolution-revolution of man. Mankind is slowly waking up from its slumber. So much interesting wisdom is being brought forth from the past and present. Currently, I've been fascinated by Buddhist wisdom. Buddha, in my eyes, was the best psychologist ever. Mind you, he didn't call himself that. The term came centuries later. But Buddha understood the mind more than anyone else. This book will talk about the 51 mental factors. To transform, we must have a reference point to transform. The Buddhists have 51 mental factors to take a look at. I'm going to try to bring this wisdom down to simple and easy to understand. The Buddhists can be very intellectual. The wisdom is there. I love to make things super easy to understand. I may not get the entire theory, yet I get the wisdom behind it. I've been a software engineer for many moons. I have built many complicated systems. By building simple objects and combining them into a software program, it can become quite sophisticated. All of my software projects were built this way. Simplicity is the key. Come with me on this incredible journey. This is the ultimate video game. You have been playing this game for eons. The goal is to be conscious and aware. Intro. The definition of alchemy is as follows. 1. A medieval chemical science and speculative philosophy aiming to achieve the transmutation of the basic metals into gold, the discovery of a universal cure for disease, and the discovery of a means of indefinitely prolonging life. 2. A power or process that changes or transforms something into a mysterious or impressive way. The practices or the practitioners of financial alchemy that transformed the world of money in the 1980s. 3. An unexplicable or mysterious transmuting. Alchemist. Someone who transforms things for the better. Today, we recognize alchemy as a pseudoscience and give chemistry its rightful place as a serious scientific field. But the two terms initially overlapped in meaning before separating by the 17th century, just as astrology and astronomy did during the same period. Alchemy and alchemists are in fact older words than chemistry and chemist in English. Alchemists believed that lead could be perfected into gold, that disease could be cured, and that life could be prolonged through transmutation or a change of some essential element into a superior form. Their secretive experiments, usually involving heat and the mixture of liquids, led to the development of pharmacology and the rise of modern chemistry. The long route to English for alchemists began with the Greek word chemia, which probably came from the word chyma, fluid, derived from the verb chen, meaning to pour. It then passed to Arabic, which added its own definite article, al, the, to the Greek root. The word then passed from Latin to French before coming to English. Some other words derived from Arabic also retain the al in English, such as algebra, algorithm, and alcohol. In fact, the transformative liquid that was consistently being sought through experimentation by alchemists is another word with the Arabic al. Prefix, elixir. This power to transform things for the better, real or imagined, led to figurative meanings for alchemy and alchemists. The history of alchemy. The medieval chemical science, and speculative philosophy that focus on the attempt to change less valuable metals into gold, to find a universal cure for disease, and to discover a means of prolonging life indefinitely is called alchemy. It was practiced in much of the ancient world from China and India to Greece. Alchemists migrated to Egypt and were later revived in the 12th century Europe through translations of Arabic texts into Latin. Medieval European alchemists made some useful discoveries, including mineral acids and alcohol. The revival led to the development of pharmacology and to the rise of modern chemistry. The gold-making processes of alchemists were finally discredited, but not until the 19th century. Intro. The definition of esoteric is as follows: intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a piece of specialized knowledge or interest. The definition of treasure is as follows: a quantity of precious metals, gems, or other valuable objects. When I was young, the word esoteric was a very foreign word to me. I read some esoteric books and had no idea what they were talking about. It seemed so complicated and intellectual. I must admit, I have a simple mind, yet with a simple mind, one can develop complex systems. During the 90s, our family moved to Maui. I got a job working for the Haleakala Observatory. Boeing was the subcontractor. The Air Force operates the Maui Space Surveillance Complex. The Air Force was tracking space debris and satellites. One of my first projects was a dome automation system. Imagine at midnight we would have a dome operator which would have a switch to move the dome clockwise or counterclockwise. During the winter, it would get extremely cold. The operator would be wearing a snowsuit. At times, during an important pass, they would doze off and fall asleep. I was instructed to automate this process. My friend Paul was charged with the overall hardware design, and I was assigned to the software side. The program was written in C++, which I was not familiar with. Anyway, we had a short timeline to pull this off. Paul and his crew installed barcode readers around the dome. We had an IBM pizza box that we used. The basic formula was we had to take the as, pole, and deck positions and calculate where the dome should move to. At times, we had to force the dome to go super fast, and when we got to our destination, we had to slow down, and they stopped. We had to make fine adjustments along the way. When we first tested out the system, we would hear a hum when we were stationary. We quickly fixed this. The system was installed on time. The system was so successful that we had another dome that was required to have the same software and hardware installed. This book hopefully will break down esoterics that will make you easily understand the mechanics of discovering the treasures within. What is esoteric is quite simple if one explains it properly. This is a practical time where we can experience the true nature that exists inside of us. Intro. The definition of a puzzle is as follows. 1. To offer or represent to someone a problem difficult to solve or a situation difficult to resolve. Challenge mentally also to exert oneself, one's mind, etc. over such a problem or situation they puzzle their wits to find a solution. 2. Archaic, complicate, entangle. What is the greatest puzzle to solve in the universe? Signposts are all around you, yet humanity is texting on the freeway of life. This book contains many writings when I talk about the great puzzle of life. The world at large would be in a better place if we attempted to try to solve this puzzle. The solution exists inside of you. Nobody can solve the puzzle for you. Many people throughout the ages provided helpful hints, but you must use your own inner shovel to mine the gold within. That's how the game got set up. I most certainly didn't make the rules. Nobody can walk in your own shoes. Your life is custom designed. What works for you may not work for others. Hopefully, by reading this book, you may try to solve the puzzle of life.
Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a principle from philosophy. Suppose there exist two explanations for an occurrence. The more assumptions you have to make, the more unlikely an explanation is. We all live in a cosmic soup. Every quantum scientist knows that. Yet, why don't we perceive that? Wise men have been talking about that for thousands of years. They don't use the word quantum. Behind your breath lies the answer. It's as simple as that. We make it so complicated. In silence, one can perceive the ocean of life. Daily, close your eyes. You will solve this riddle. The more assumptions you make, the further away you get from the truth. The simpler assumptions you make, the closer you are to the truth. Being complicated is a state of mind. Being simple is a state from the heart. A child is simple and full of love. Modern day man is quite complicated and starts many wars. Simplicity leads to truth. Truth leads to simplicity. To make things complicated will never solve the problem. Even the most complicated software program is built up of simple solutions and algorithms. A wise man contemplates the impermanence of life. When a man understands the impermanence of life, he starts looking for the jewel within. The modern day world thinks that happiness exists externally. If the world isn't impermanent and in constant change, how can your happiness be stable? 95% of your actions are dictated by your subconscious. How much are you running the show? A wise man understands that he can reprogram the hardware, software, and operating systems within his being. An ignorant man will let the computer operate on self control. A wise man will hesitate before acting upon an angry thought. How many people in prison regret the action they took instead of hesitating for just a second? It takes around 30 days for a habit. It takes around 30 days for a habit to be rewired into your neural circuitry. One who understands this can change his world. Small baby steps are needed along the way. One does not leap into infinity. You are the universe, and you just don't know it. If thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Quantum physics and the mystics of old are both talking about the same thing. Without sophisticated computers, how did the ancient ones with such incredible ideas talk about the formation of the universe? I think, therefore, I'm confused. In silence, the mind learns slowly to slow down. A silent mind is the most precious mind. A mosquito mind constantly bites man. Events that happened many moons ago exist inside your body and mind. It takes less than a fraction of a second for you to be reminded of an event, whether it was good or bad. Holding on to anger is drinking your own poison. Present-day scientists confirm that statement today. Meditation is the key to discovering your true nature. Only looking externally will never solve your problem of finding happiness. A person who wanders has no destination to go to. A traveler in life knows the road to his destination. A wanderer will never find his soul. A traveler will discover his soul and go back home. A wise man blames no one, including himself. An ignorant man will always blame others for his troubles. Wisdom and information are not the same. Wisdom comes from within. Information are snippets of unreality. If there's a spectrum of darkness to light, wisdom and information would be at entirely different ends of the spectrum. See, about 1% of the light spectrum, yet we think we know it all. A wise man, day by day, moment by moment, tries to see the light behind all things. Truth is the consciousness of bliss. When the mind is absorbed in truth, the consciousness will be in bliss. Only a wise man comprehends this riddle. How can a fish drown in water? How can a man choke in his own words? One day, a dear friend said, "Do you know the meaning of Fletcher?" I did not. He said Fletcher means bullseye. To sin means to miss the mark. I like that. The disease is when the mind is not at ease. A mind that is not at ease will not be able to sleep well at night. Companies will work you to death if you allow them. Job interview once when they required you to work 60 to 80 hours a week. I said, I didn't come down to this planet solely to work, and I promptly left the interview. If you don't like your job, then leave. Find something that you love to do. And making money is more important than being in a job you hate. Your priorities are wrong. Shortly, we will be having several trillionaires. Are they satisfied with their money? No, they want more and more. On my travels around the world, I have seen people with absolutely no money yet have a smile on their faces.